Happy Friday, everyone. Rich Swerbinsky with the Mortgage Collaborative here once again with the rundown with Rob and Rich. Rob, you're already shaking your head at me.
Sue's beaming over here. Rich, once again, you put somebody on the show who's going to make me look ornery. I guess that's not hard to do, but this is particularly distressing.
Well, in my view, I'm right between the two of you, which seems like a great place to be. So good to see you guys.
Where are you on your screen?
Where am I? I am in Siesta Key, Florida at the moment.
No. On the screen.
On the screen. I've got Rich over here and I've got Rob over here.
Oh.
So
with my screen, I've got a huge Sue Woodard and huge Rich Swerbinsky, and I'm like, you are also on this show. Okay. I don't even see myself. Story of my life right there.
Please reduce size of us. Nobody needs to see us that close up.
Well, Rob, where are you this week? I know you said you were going to be broadcasting from another unknown location.
This is my backyard gardening shack, Rich. according to many. No, I am in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was in Nashville this morning, Knoxville earlier this week, and Scottsdale, Arizona on Sunday and Monday. So it's been a whirlwind week, and I'm speaking tonight at the Chattanooga Mortgage Bankers Association awards dinner, and they've got about 300 people coming tonight, which is something. So I'm in the Bluff Arts District, which, when you look at a map of Chattanooga, it's kind of the point where the river bends around. But Chattanooga has a very storied history when it comes to the Civil War because of its strategic location with waterways and railways and so forth. So the first time I visited this area was many, many years ago, going to Chickamauga and other battlefields in the area. So very interesting history here. And it's a nice town. It's nice, very nice town.
All the Tennessee mortgage banking organizations are very active. 300 people at Chattanooga. I mean, it's a pretty serious number. I guess it's not entirely surprising because the state of Tennessee is flourishing right now.
Big time. We drove through a town on the way called Sewanee, which is the home of Southern College. I don't know. I forget the full name, but just spectacular. Just a gorgeous town, Sewanee. So if you're ever driving between Chattanooga and Nashville, check it out. It was founded in 1858. It's just great stone buildings, and this area is right. I mean, Nashville, as we know, is out of control, and the national conference is there later this year, and I've been to some other conferences there. In fact, the Eclipse, the anti-eclipse, the Eclipse Gate event with TMC happened, I believe, in Nashville. So yeah, the whole all of Tennessee, it's that whole zero state income tax thing that really helps.
Absolutely. And Rob, good to see you again. And this week, very excited to announce our special co-host this week, longtime friend of the TMC network, one of the most well-known, well-liked leaders in our industry, real fintech thought leader, senior advisor for our longtime partners at Total Expert, Sue Woodard. Sue, great to see you.
It's so good to be here with you all. And it's going to be fun to see you live and in person in Miami before we know it.
We were just talking before we went live. I think Rob and I are going to do the show live together next week in Miami. So
it'll be titled The Rub Down with Rich and Rob. But at least that's the working script name. So I don't know. I imagine it might change by then.
Well, what happens in Florida stays in Florida. That's what I understand. Although
and you're in Florida right now.
I'm in Florida at this very moment. We got a place in Siesta Key, Florida, and so I'll be driving over to Miami. But Florida, I read, was the number one most. I read it in the Chrisman commentary, the most migrated to state in 2021. In fact, that was the only crabby person that I've met in Florida. Was we actually U-hauled some stuff down here, and we dropped off our little U-Haul trailer, and the lady was real crabby. And finally she said, "Oh, I'm sorry," but she said, I don't have a place to put this trailer because everybody's coming and nobody's leaving. It's like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. It's a lot of people are on the move. In my opening paragraph today, I had a link to a report that I think everybody on this call should read. And that was about how many millions of people are expected to move soon because of continued work from home concepts and ideas and practices and so forth. So that'll be a very big topic for our industry. It already is a big topic about culture and how do you maintain culture in a work from home environment, especially with the ops staff being scattered. But anyway, we digress. Rich, I'm sure you've got some questions that you want to pose to our esteemed panel, our esteemed co-host today.
Yes, and something I do want to dig deeper into that report, because some really interesting statistics just on movement around America due to remote work and others' plans to move due to remote work, which we'll get into as the show progresses. But Sue, total expert. I remember when we first partnered with you guys, God, it was like probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And you guys were not new, but you were gaining momentum. And now you fast forward to today. And to me, at least, I think the difference between you guys and some others in the industry, when I look at technology vendors that have had success in the mortgage industry and those that have not had as much success, you guys are kind of what I like to call like purpose-built technology. You guys are built for bankers, for mortgage lenders, for a very specific reason. I think a lot of the problems we've seen our members have with technology are maybe related to tech providers or vendors that are trying to be in every space, mortgage being one of a bunch of them. I'm going to guess you're going to agree with me on that one.
I'm going to totally agree with you on that one. There is something really special about being both purpose built for an industry and also having that DNA in your company where you genuinely understand the pains and what you're trying to tie together. So yeah, it's about tying together sales and marketing, powering it with data and insights, and then putting things in place to help people take action. So, and yeah, it's been a interesting ride, Rich, when you think back to the beginning. I mean, I actually just was looking at some updated numbers, and believe it or not, $1.1 trillion in mortgages came through Total Expert last year. So that was touching 1 out of 4 mortgages done in the United States was in Total Expert. And right now, Total Expert has 15 of the top 25 lenders, and I think just about 175 great lenders being served. So some really cool things happening.
I remember like it was yesterday, we met at the MBA secondary probably 5 years ago in New York at that crazy Marriott in one of those tables right by the window that overlooks Times Square. Is you and Jeff Walton and Joe and a couple others. And I knew of you and Jeff and had heard so many good things about you guys. I was about 10 minutes into that conversation where I had kind of decided in my head, like, this is a company we want to be aligned with. And fast forward, was a good move. So
we felt the same way. So never looked back.
Cool. And this type of climate going forward, which we're going to get into right now, I mean, to have a great marketing operating system. And like I was telling Joe last week on one of the calls, like, I don't like the call you guys a CRM. It almost, not to, demean the term CRM, but you guys really do a lot more than that. It is a full blown marketing system. And this climate where it is just so imperative to generate business in every way humanly possible. System like your guys, it's a good tool to have as we trudge forward here.
Yep. It's about driving a great customer experience and actually driving a great experience inside your organization as well, right? Which is equally important, making sure you have a great organizational experience, driving a great customer experience. And it's all about getting the data, the intelligence, and the automation. So it's the, as we've talked about many times. Oh God, Rob, what is Rob showing us?
Oh, the drug dogs. Each of the last 3 or 4 episodes, there's been dogs paying curious amounts of attention to Rob, who's been
my backpack.
The old backpack.
I forgot, once again, I forgot my pouch of edibles to ward those canines off with. But anyway, I must be wearing milk-bone underwear.
Yes, the dogs love you, so especially the ones in the airport, right? Yeah. So,
well, like we were saying, talk about attraction, engagement, I mean, they're clearly attracted to Rob. So, however it works, man. But no, we're just, like I said, super happy to be here, super happy to be a partner with TMC. So good stuff.
Awesome. And looking forward to the conversation. Let's go ahead and get into it. Rob, no shortage of craziness as usual as it pertains to the world and as it pertains to our industry. Another worse than expected inflation number this week. And that's kind of saying a lot because the expectations on these inflation numbers are horrible. And the last 4 or 5 at least have been worse than expected. Very volatile interest rate market. We saw upon the invasion in the Ukraine, 30-year fixed rates really jumped downward, biggest move downward in some years. Now they've shot right back up into that 4.25 range for 30-year fixed rates. And what you're seeing now is economists are now scrambling already to revise their projections for 2022, particularly around home price appreciation, which anybody that's listened to this show knows we've been spending probably too much time talking about. But all the economists now starting to revise their projections with what we've been saying for months, that show me something that is going to slow down the pace of home appreciation in America, because I'm not seeing it at all. And sure as can be, Zillow up from 11 to 17% projection on home price appreciation this year. Fannie Mae tends to be conservative, went all the way up into the 11s from 7 something. So here we go. How do you assess things as we get into the middle of March here?
Well, Rich, today was a low blow for me. The bag of Doritos now contains 5 less chips. And on my road trips around the nation, Doritos are a staple. So the inflation, as we've talked about, as anybody who puts their mind to it can think about, whether it's Girl Scout cookies or Doritos, whatever it might be, some kind of product, that there's different ways to deal with inflation. Either you raise the price, or you substitute in cheaper ingredients, or you lower the serving size. And so Girl Scout cookies reduced their package size some years ago. And now I view Doritos as a food group, and now the number of chips per bag has been reduced. So the markets have been really in a state of tug of war, as is the Fed, dealing with inflation, dealing with Ukraine and Russia, the terrible attack by Russia on Ukraine. And through that all, though, it's still viewed as an environment where rates will slide higher throughout the year, obviously impacting affordability. And that's what some of the economists and some of the smarter people in the room were saying, was that when rates go higher, the affordability will be impacted, and that'll push housing prices down. The problem with that, of course, is that, as we've talked about, the demographics just don't support that. And as rates slide higher, affordability will be impacted. But really, once again, when I do drive around the nation and look in these neighborhoods, I find myself seeing no for sale signs whatsoever. And so you can talk about inflation all you want. You can also talk about rent inflation. And that's what I'm hearing loan officers talk to their clients about, is the rent inflation. The rent is not supposed to start going down. The rent will mirror inflation. And unfortunately right now, that's what we're seeing. And we're also seeing house price appreciation or expected house price appreciation outpace wage growth. So I made this point in my commentary earlier this week. With the run up in house prices, the wealth gap between the haves and the have-nots in our nation continues to widen, which is not a good thing. On top of that, and then I'll get off my soapbox and let Sue chime in. But if you think about who is paying for the gasoline price increase, it might not be Joe wealthy guy. It might be Susie working in the Marriott gal. or Jose working in the kitchen at the diner, and they have to commute, a half hour, an hour every day to get to that job. And the gas prices really hurt the lower tier of our economy, and it hurts the people in the service sector, especially hard on a marginal basis. And so many of us are grateful we can work from home and we're not driving long distances. And even if we were to drive long distances, $1 a gallon isn't a huge deal. But when you're making $14 or $16 an hour, making $35,000 a year, and you're paying for 30 gallons of gas a month, and it goes up $1 a gallon, and suddenly that's $3,600 for the year. And if you're only making 36,000 a year, that's a 10% hit to your after-tax bottom line, and that's a real problem. That's a real problem. So that's what I'm seeing going on out there with regard to inflation and the economy.
Just something I jump in with that is that gas also impacts the price of oil, impacts everything. It's not just what's going in our gas tanks.
I know my cosmetics.
I know it's crazy what I've heard about your eyeshadow, but you think about the price of your Doritos, somebody's got to deliver those Doritos to you. Somebody's got to, it impacts the price of absolutely everything. And I appreciate you making the point that, the dollar that it, or $2 or $3 or whatever it is now, the gas has gone up. It's not reasonable for most people to, again, just go buy an electric car, just don't drive somewhere. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to do those things. They've got to drive to work and they've got to drive the car that they have. So, the interesting point on inflation is that I was looking at some numbers recently showing that inflation or real estate is a great hedge against inflation. And, basically you just said it, rent is going to keep going up. A fixed rate mortgage, although your taxes and insurance might go up, that fixed rate mortgage isn't. And right now, if I look at what my portfolio is, my investment portfolio versus the real estate that I own, I wish I had more in real estate, right? So, but again, I appreciate you pointing out, again, investing in real estate is not on the table for everybody out there. So it does increase that disparity between the haves and have-nots for sure.
If you just put $40 in your tank every time, and you're impervious to inflation.
Oh What's God. That, Rich?
If you just put $40 in your gas tank every time you fill up, you're impervious to inflation. You just get half the gas, but but no, certainly inflation. But Sue, that's a great point. It is a great hedge against inflation. And Rob made the point earlier about rent prices, which keep skyrocketing, even more than home values in America. And it's not hard to see why. You've had so much institutional investor purchase of homes in America, and it's in, some are turning around and selling them, reselling them, but others are seeing what we're seeing, a market that seems to indicate that there's nothing stopping home values from going up. So they're going to squeeze some juice out of the lemon on monthly rents for a while, let that run its course and see what happens. The numbers on rents going up are astronomical. And that's another part of my big belief that the prices of homes are going to keep going up astronomically in America, because it's still a better deal to buy than it is to rent right now, even if you discount the benefit of you're buying an investment that's going up and up and up, and the hedge against inflation thing.
Yeah, no question. As we've talked about, people, if they've got money, they would rather invest in real estate, which they can see and feel, versus 100 shares of IBM or $100,000 of T-bills, where you don't know, if rates keep going up, your T-bond portfolio is going to go down in price, and you'll get a better yield down the road. The stock market's been all over the place with the battle going on in Ukraine, and so it's an interesting time. It's always an interesting time, right, Rich, to be investing. But I think it's important for us to keep in mind, and I'm not going to be too somber here, but it is a somber topic that we're sitting here talking about the price of gas going up. But the reason the price of gas is going up is because of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. And there are people over there dying, every day. they're getting killed. And so it's important to keep things in perspective. And I like keeping things in perspective. It's really too bad what's going on there, not only with regard to the worldwide economies and what's going on, but with just the catastrophic loss of life. It's really, really bad.
And inflation also impacting just location of humans across America factors as well. Rob, the survey that you linked in your newsletter this morning that we've linked in the chat was done by Upwork. What it revealed is that 9.3% of Americans plan to move in the not too distant future because of remote work and being able to work remotely. Equally as interesting in the study, only 2.4% thus far that were surveyed have moved because of remote work. So that represents a much bigger pool of people that are getting ready or planning to move than have already because of remote work. And 28% plan to move more than 4 hours away. And some other underlying statistics about, not surprisingly, people wanting to move away from higher priced cities like San Francisco to places like Tennessee, moving to lower priced suburbs, the need to be connected to where they lived previously or major metropolitan cities and centers, not as important to people. And I think, we've talked about this the last couple of years, and now we're seeing it start to play out in statistics with people relocating because of being able to work remotely. And Sue, you guys sit on so much customer data. I'm assuming you're seeing the same things. Any other interesting trends of note or any thoughts on the survey that we just mentioned?
No, I mean, I think one of the other obvious headlines that we were talking about a little bit earlier relative to Tennessee is also taxes. If you have the opportunity to go live in a state like Tennessee or like Florida where you don't have the state tax, it adds up pretty quickly. And I think some of I appreciate what Rob said, a minute ago about the reality of some of what's going on in the world, because all of the things that we're talking about are pretty high class problems, right? And I do think we're getting to this place where people have, I think there's less uncertainty around, like, am I going to be able to stay working remote? What is it going to look like for my child? And now I've already had them maybe in some cases, not in school. And so I'm more used to, there a lot of the things that were in place are so disrupted that I think people are kind of pulling up and saying, hey, we've had this kind of fantasy for years about going off and living in the mountains. Hey, we actually could go off and live in the mountains because we kind of know now what that might look and feel like to be in a, kind of closed off from some of the things that we were used to. So I'm not surprised by that at all, but I definitely would think taxes. I know we don't want to get political, but I know there's a lot of people that want to live in a different state based on, where they're politically affiliated as well. So it's interesting.
Absolutely. So,
and thus we find Sue Woodard in Florida.
Thus we find Sue Woodard in Florida. I haven't pulled off 6 months in a day yet, but that's on my bucket list for next year.
Right. It is interesting how people are voting with their pocketbooks as well. And I think there are 8 states in the United States that don't have state income tax: Washington, Nevada, Texas, Florida, Tennessee. I think Wyoming is in there. And so, and I forget 1 or 2 others, but I never hear Wyoming as having a huge influx, but certainly places like Montana for political reasons, but also just because of space reasons and so forth. But people are voting with their feet and voting for lower tax situations and for quality of life. Right. And what tends to happen is the inner core of some of these cities like San Francisco or Oakland, maybe even Manhattan, they are suffering because of that. I was at an event recently and had a table full of folks from Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana. And I said, who here has a place in Florida or is looking at buying a place in Florida? And everybody raised their hands. And I thought, wow, this is very telling. Yeah. So the different parts of the East Coast and the Midwest head to different parts of the Gulf Coast and Florida, different parts of California and the West might head to places like Las Vegas or Washington State. it is interesting. I think we're just witnessing, just like the last year or two, the start of something that could continue for a while until people get settled down. But once again, I go back to, and Rich has heard me, Sue, say this dozens of times, but when people make predictions about interest rates or predictions about almost anything, and you go back to the beginning of 2020, and anybody who was paying for interest rate predictions from early 2020, of course, those immediately went out the door with the pandemic and rates going down and house prices going up. And then we start 2022, and everybody's talking about higher rates and the economy is going to pick up a lot of steam and so forth and so on. And then Russia attacks Ukraine. You can't predict some of these things, some of these, you know, outside influences on our economy. And so, you know, we could talk about forecasts and predictions and so forth and what the Fed is going to do. And they're going to, sure, are they going to raise rates 4 times or 6 times and by a quarter point or a half point? But the Fed is in the middle of the things that we are talking about. They look at the inflation picture and the textbook says taper off security buying, which they're doing. In fact, I think today might have been the last regular day. And then, you know, start raising rates. But then with Ukraine and that situation there, gosh, you know, the world economy is in it. Could it be in a tailspin? In which case the Federal Reserve, to keep the stability in our economy going, they're going to have to step in. Are they going to have to buy securities again just to keep rates low? They're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I think it'll be interesting to see what they say next week. They are supposed to come out with a quarter point raise. And then all of a sudden everybody's saying, well, the real rate of interest, which is inflation minus the yield, if you just look at the 10-year yield, let's say it's 2% and inflation 7%, we're talking about a negative yield, a negative rate of return of 5%. That treasury minus inflation, negative 5%. They're going to have to go a long way before there's a positive real rate of return or bring inflation down. And they can't bring inflation down with what's going on in Ukraine. So it's very, very interesting what's going on. And through it all, we're sitting here as an industry just trying to help, you know, the next borrower come up with a program or a decent rate on a cash out refi, or if they can find a house, you know, purchase situation. So as usual, Rich and Sue, interesting times.
This is the Rundown with Rob and Rich. I'm Rich Robinsky with the Mortgage Collaborative, joined as always by Rob Chrisman. And this week, special guest co-host, senior advisor for Total Expert, Sue Woodard. Sue, a record 4.4 trillion in originations last year. That still it blows my mind that last year, 21 ended up being a bigger year than 20, which was the biggest crush of volume this industry has really ever seen. Right. In the fall months. We had a whole year of more sustained volume last year, ended up nosing it out. But so we move into 2022, certainly a different climate. I can't think of anybody that has been more at the forefront of like generating purchase business and technology and strategies that do that. What would be your biggest advice right now as we go into a different climate, different tech, in a year where it's really going to be purchase only? There will be some cash out refi stuff, obviously, that pops in, but your biggest advice to lending leaders and loan originators out there as we get into the spring buying season? Yeah,
well, I tell you, we touched on this a little bit already, but it's about having the data, getting insights from that data, and then taking action on it. Because, you know, you just said it. There's, you know, all these different factors happening, but, you know, the amount of people, for example, if you have this data, which again, this is part of what Total Expert does, is really help you, you know, keep all your data and then understand that data so you can take action on it and serve your customers. There's an incredibly high number of transactions taking place right now that are second homes, investment properties, as we've been talking about, which also is fed by cash out refinances. That's where in some cases people are getting the money to make these investment property or second home purchases. But you can't proactively act on those things unless you're really looking overall at, you know, kind of who's in your database and what's happening, not just being reactive. So I would say that, it's a very smart time as lenders right now I know a lot of lenders are evaluating their tech stacks, right? People are concerned about their profit margins. They're looking at their tech stacks. But now is the time that integrated technology, I think, is more important than ever, both from that data standpoint, as well as there's a lot of interesting numbers coming out about the customers demanding a different experience. Their expectations are much higher. If I've given you some data before, don't ask me for it again and again and again. You should actually not only know this data about me, but help me do smart things, because you know all this data about me and I'm looking to you to be the market expert. And so I do think it's a smart time that as lenders are evaluating those tech stacks, to really be paying a lot of attention, to those tools like a Total Expert, of course, that is really enabling, it's never enabling like removing a person from it. I know everybody's worried about staffing, right now as well. But Rob, I remember one of the comments on the panel that you were on at Snug last week. There was a comment made where a top producing loan officer was being repeated who said, I can't outwork a computer. So I've got to partner with technology to give me the information that I need. And then I need to be the person to have that human interaction, but I've got to have that technology running underneath to feed and support what I'm doing. So I would just caution lenders, don't look at your tech stack and say, oh, I got to get rid of, all these things. I mean, now is the time to be really leaning into the technology that's serving you, that's creating a great customer experience and providing you that data to take action on.
Sue, congratulations. I have never heard the term tech stack used so many times in such a short period of time. So hats off to you.
Shame on you. What did I say?
Sitting here. Oh, we'll do the replay.
Make it a drinking game next time. So,
but yeah, tech stack, bingo. But I'm sitting here wondering to myself, when you start talking about tech stack and technology, and everybody talks about technology, I'm wondering, Sue, let me ask you this: when was the last time you heard a dial tone?
I actually
All
had.
right. Well, yeah. Didn't mean to stump the.
Stumped me. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that one of those sounds like putting a coin in the payphone and hearing it go down there? Anyway, sorry, Rich, didn't mean to derail the show once again, but maybe I did.
Oh, all good. And at the risk of using the term again, it is true. Our members if they're one thing they're doing more than anything right now is evaluating their technological infrastructure. Because I mean, see, I found a different term. There you go. The last 2 years, they were just throwing lots of things at their business, humans and tech. And then, you get into this year and everybody's got big hopes. Last year wasn't supposed to be a huge year, right? So there's some of that optimism as we got into the holiday season. Things were starting to slow down, and nobody was expecting this start. But now, quickly into the year, it's become apparent it's going to be a different type of year, and it's got leaders really examining their business top to bottom, because they're out there right now trying to engaging in a lot of different business development activities as well. If it's paying talent to come on board, or other ways to, drive new business through referral relationships. So causing them to look at the other side of the coin as well, on the expense side and the infrastructure side of their business.
Yeah, and the technology infrastructure also can, but it makes a difference for the people in your business as well, right? Like recruiting the right people, retaining the right people. Your employee experience matters right now too. I mean, we know the labor market is another, kind of interesting wild card out there as well, that's driving a lot of interesting, that's even driving some of the housing trends, right? I mean, people can, they can get a job, easy to get a job almost anywhere that you want. I mean, it's like the opportunities are limitless. And so you start to think about these things, just again, what you put in place in your business and being very thoughtful about that. Driving a great employee experience is just as important as the customer experience. The customer experience that you have is never going to be better than what your employee experience is, right?
Ooh, can I quote you on that, Sue? That was very pithy, very pithy.
Was it? Well,
I remember
you and your Doritos. So
some years ago, when people would ask me about technology, one of the big things that I would point out that IT people would tell me is, when they were considering bringing on a new vendor, can vendor A talk to existing vendor B? Or are we going to have to rejigger the whole system because A and B don't talk to one another and we really like A and we really like B, and so we've got to figure that out. Now, as you know, as you alluded to there, the whole vendor ecosystem, what I like to call the tech stack, has migrated to, just like everybody's talking to one another, or you have vendors in the vendor infrastructure, which I also like to say is staring at me like I'm a loony over here. Anyway, talking about tech stacks, they are talking to one another in a very cost-effective way, and so the discussion of A talking to B isn't so much taking my picture. I'm sorry, I get flustered when.
You look like someone famous. Hey, isn't that Rob Chrisman?
Standing in front of a random building in Chattanooga, Tennessee, talking about tech stacks.
Hi.
Oh, paparazzi once again.
Rob,
interrupt the show.
It's an interesting point though about integration, which is another pain point I know you've heard Rich lenders probably talk about. So it is important for lenders or for the vendor partners that are out there to continue, keeping those integrations really strong and really dynamic. I know some, are talking about trying to become more of the end to end and do absolutely everything. But you often lose something in the sauce with that as well. So the integrations are important. Did you, Rob, do you have to sign an autograph there? Or what just happened? Like,
you'd never believe it. Anyway, go on, Rich.
This is the rundown with Rob and Rich. Got about 10 minutes left with Rob Chrisman and Sue Woodard, and we're talking tech stacks and the paparazzi assaulting Rob and drug dogs assaulting Rob and all things 2000.
I take my life into my hands every time I go out in public, Rich. I mean, it's really, I'm wondering, I need to tell you, Rich, so I'm sitting here, the clouds have been going by, I got the sun now. Next Friday, Rich, pace yourself. You don't want to be sitting for an hour in the Florida sun ahead of the whole conference, because you're gonna get all red and people will make fun of you. So bring sunscreen, wear a hat, or we'll be under one of those umbrellas.
I'll bring some sunscreen. I'll bring one of those suits that if you get attacked by a dog, you don't get bit.
This is a really special moment of friendship. I'm so glad that I could be a part of this.
There you go.
Should be interesting. Next Friday, broadcasting live in person from TMC Days, Miami Nights at the Fontainebleau, Miami Beach. Just a week away. Really looking forward to that and to seeing everybody and to seeing and hearing the discussion. One of many things, I'm biased, of course, I love about our conferences is it's such a pulse of the industry conference. No other conference do you have, if it's partners of ours like Sue or friends of our network like Rob that are non-lenders that are sitting in sessions, because you are getting the pulse of the mortgage industry. Very granular topics, very meaningful discussions between leaders nationally about the things that they are struggling with, having challenges with, having success with. And one of the things that's popped up recently is just the whole work from home thing. We're doing a session actually on Sunday. It's going to be great. It's going to be, I picked 3 lenders and I'm the moderator. We're doing it. It's going to be like a presidential debate. I mean, we're going to model it like directly after a presidential debate. One of the candidates is going to be representing work from home. One of the candidates is going to be representing work from the office exclusively. One is going to be representing hybrid. And as I was, doing some prep for the session and talking to some lenders, what I'm finding is their opinions are evolving on what to do with the whole work from home thing. One, the pandemic is starting to die down a little bit. 2, the work from the office thing, even if you were considering going in that direction because the pandemic is chilling, inflation, once again, kind of wreaking havoc with that as well. If it's the cost of gas, the cost of clothes, lenders telling me that employee A and employee B that perform the same role, that employee A that works in the office is demanding a lot more money than the same exact employee that works from home, because they have to pay for gas, they have to pay for clothes, they have to pay for childcare, they have to pay for pet care. So another interesting dynamic for our industry right now. And Rob or Sue, I don't know if you've heard anything along those lines from your respective circles within the industry.
But one quick comment that I'll share on that I have heard from a lot of people is that one of the issues with this issue is that people have hired all over the country over the past 2 years, right? They've hired people all over. And so now they're saying to their local people, oh, you need to come back into the office. And they're like, well, wait a second. Like, Joe out in Nashville doesn't have to come into the office. Why do I have to come into the office? And then you also get the issue of you're trying to have a meeting. Half your people are on a Zoom, half your people are live. The live people start side talking, the Zoom people can't hear, so you do end up with some kind of odd dynamics. And so my guess is it'll land somewhere in the middle with the hybrid, but I don't know, Rob, what do you hear?
I'm hearing the same thing. The ability for people to not only work remotely, but also set their own hours, especially if you're an independent contractor or you're an underwriter expected to underwrite 2 or 3 files a day. Doesn't matter if those 2 or 3 files are from 8 to 5, or can they be from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then again from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., depending on your family schedule and the lifestyle of being able to work from home. I tend to send the commentary out from some pretty nice places over time. I tend to send the commentary out from some pretty miserable places. But here I am, in the sun, being on this show. And Rich, you will find this funny because these glasses are from the Total Solar Eclipse glasses, August 21st, 2017.
TMC Nashville.
Here they are.
4.5 years ago. I remember we had our conference in Nashville when the eclipse went through, and Nashville was right in the center. I forget what the hell it's called, but the direct path of the eclipse. But that was pretty cool. But
Sue, these are the bonus treats that Rich relies upon me to do. The eclipse glasses and yeah, there you go. Yeah. And the guy taking my picture. Anyway.
But inflation, getting back to it, it's what it's doing for lenders that I'm talking to is the work from home versus the work in the office thing. I think a lot of lenders wanted to try to get people back in the office, but now they're seeing it's so much more. It's this decision you have as a leader. Culture, much, much easier in person. So versus efficiency. And with inflation rising and the price of everything rising, it's making the efficiency of work from home all the greater. It obviously gives you a lot more flexibility in who you hire and all that too. But it's really bringing it into the forefront. Rob?
Rich, you talked about this presidential debate, quote unquote, of one person, work from home, hybrid, return to the office. Are the companies that they work for actually doing those things, or is it just they're representing positions like a high school debate, in favor of abortion, anti-abortion? They don't have an opinion on abortion, or are these companies actually doing this?
No, they're actually doing it. I mean, so we picked 3 companies and 3 entertaining, very smart people that will be representing those positions, and it's going to be really good. And looking forward to it. And
I didn't get the nod for that panel, that's for sure.
Well, you work from in front of prisons and random buildings and drug dogs. So, but and lenders are also thinking about this too, because let's just not beat around the bush. There's been a lot of layoffs in our industry and more coming. Some make the headlines, some don't. And who is better.com? I can't believe what's going on there. The latest is the latest round of layoffs, the severance paperwork was in the employees HR, where you log on to look at your pay stubs before they told them what the hell is going on at this company. I mean, it's I can't even.
No joke. I think they should rebrand as worse.com.
Worse.com, right? Exactly. It's a train wreck. Right as they're trying to go public, it could not be more funny.
Well, funny unless you
Unless
work
you're an
there, but
investor, right?
it's or you're like an investor somehow. But there are some companies that you don't mind if they succeed. Your competitors, if you admire that company, you respect that company, you're okay with them succeeding as long as it doesn't eat too much of your market share. Maybe, I mean, there's respectful, uh, uh, competition. With Better.com, they came in, and I hear that as I travel around. No one could give, excuse my, well, I'm not going to go there, but no one gives a darn about, unfortunately, Better.com company. I think they care about some of the employees who work there, but really the company that came in and we're going to revolutionize mortgage lending, we're going to undercut everybody. It's not like they can defy the laws of capital markets and of supply and demand. And, their cost to originate is whatever it is. And it wasn't so much better than everybody else's. And now they're paying the price. Thousands of people have been laid off. And it's really too bad for those individuals and those families. Fortunately, the job market is very good right now. But I would say that the number of people who feel sorry for Better.com's woes are minimal.
I would agree with you. It's more a cautionary tale, like how not to.
Case
something.
study, right? Exactly. Case study on how not to go public.
Oh,
Oh boy.
Cringy.
What else? Got a few minutes left here. Baseball's back. March Madness and the Masters around the corner. TMC Miami. Daylight savings. It will stop being dark in Cleveland at 4:30 p.m. Looking forward to that. Although not looking forward to losing the hour. Sue, anything in there that strikes your fancy?
no, I'm excited about March Madness. This is like one of my favorite times of year. I'm not in a bracket this year though. Like I'm gonna have to like make my own at-home bracket, but no, it's going to be a good time, and I'm really looking forward to being at TMC. It's been fun getting together. Like we've been able to see each other at a few places, and there's a lot of talking about, again, kind of remote being together, not being together. There's power in getting together at something like a TMC conference where you're able to just connect and engage in a different way. So yeah, Total Experts excited to be there, be a part of it, and I am too.
Loving it. Rob?
I wonder if I have two comments, both ornery. Have we seen the demise of the Super Bowl pool when, Frank from the mailroom would walk around the office with the Super Bowl pool and everybody buys a square or two squares or however many squares they want to buy. Then they draw the numbers and everybody takes it home and roots, for the score. Is the Super Bowl pool, office Super Bowl pool gone? And then the second question is, Sue, you like March Madness. Am I wrong in saying that March Madness used to be in March, used to start like earlier in March and take up most of March? Or was it always like, we're almost halfway through March and it really hasn't started?
No, you're right. I that's the way I remember it. This was March. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's
I think it used to be that. They've slowly moved it back, at least for like the last 10 years. I think the championship game's been in early April. Like all sports, they're bleeding out some extra games at the end of the year,
right?
More money.
Yeah.
So there's more teams that get in the tournament, now. So it's just been slowly extended a little bit over time to where, but you're right. This is a late start. The official start, I guess, would be next week. But yeah, it is kind of a later start. So,
yeah. So Rich, you always ask what I'm doing. If I can fly out of here tomorrow at 6 a.m., as I hope, I get to see the Warriors play the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow night in San Francisco.
Ooh, that's a good game.
Taking my kids to the game if I can get there.
I'm actually, after this show, heading to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in downtown Cleveland, where you just were for the All-Star game. I'm going to be in Rob Chrisman-esque seats, but it's for the Mid-American Conference semifinals, not the NBA All-Star game. Toledo versus Akron and Kent State versus Ohio University. Me and the two teams.
That'll be fun. That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. College hoops is good stuff. So, and Tom Gallucci, our very own, a Toledo grad, I knew he'd be excited about that. So, well, we're about out of time. Sue, any weekend plans? You're down in Siesta Key. What do you got going on this weekend?
I just got a, you know what? I have some friends coming into town, but I got a text yesterday from Brian View at Finlocker who said he is, for some reason, going to find himself in Siesta Key tonight,
Nice.
looking for restaurant recommendations. So
Good
no,
guy.
just enjoy some sun and then head
What
to.
about you do the Sue Woodard limbo pit in your backyard, right? Don't you have some kind of limbo pit
We do. It's
near?
yeah, it's a competition, kind of multi-leveled. Yeah, it kicks off actually this weekend. So thanks for remembering that. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, as always, fun discussion. Rob, as always, good talking about the industry with you, and looking forward to seeing you in person a week from now. So I'll hit you up as we get ready to head to Florida. And Sue, always enjoy talking about the business with you. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
being on the show. Looking forward to seeing you in Miami in a week, and so appreciate your huge role in just the TMC and Total Expert longtime partnership, and all the TMC lender members that you guys have really helped out and will be a huge asset too as we go forward into a market where having that type of marketing operating system is really going to be vital.
Absolutely. Well, it's absolutely our honor, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And to our
absolutely.
attendees,
Thank you, Sue.
thanks as always for joining us every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, the Rundown with Rob and Rich. Next week, broadcasting live from the Fontainebleau Resort in Miami, Florida. Until then, have a great weekend and great rest of the week, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.